My name is Farhan. In this video, you will learn to prepare the statement of changes in equity. This is question number 13 taken from 2020 Paper 1 exam. Chanhawk PLC has provided you with the following information from the statement of financial position at 31 March 2019. So you can see a table has been given here for three different types of equity that we have in the books at 31 March 2019. Starting with the issued share capital of £500,000, share premium of £284,367, and retained earnings of £346,345. We have also been given some additional information, and we are required to prepare the statement of changes in equity for the year ended 31 March 2020. So all these balances that are given here refer to the opening balance at 1 April 2019, and we are preparing the statement of changes in equity for the year ended 31 March 2020. So on the right-hand side of the screen, you will see that I've done all the workings, which starts with the additional information. So let's go into all those. Starting with the first information, we know that each share has a nominal value of 50 pence. So what this really means is that when the share capital was initially issued, the £500,000 of shares that was initially issued, each of those shares were purchased by the shareholders for 50 pence each. So what we are doing based on that information is to first calculate the number of shares, as you can see on the right-hand side. And the way I did it is take the issued share capital, which is a monetary value, and then divide it with the nominal value per share of 50 pence. So £500,000 divided by pounds 0.50. So 50 pence can be expressed as 0.50 pounds. And when you do that calculation, the number of shares that goes into the issued share capital is 1 million shares. So this 1 million shares is not a monetary figure, but in fact, the number of shares only. So make sure you don't confuse yourself in the exam. Point number 2 from additional information. On 1 April 2019, the directors made a bonus issue of ordinary shares on the basis of 2 new shares for every 5 existing shares. The directors intend to maintain their reserves in their most distributable form. All right, so this simply means that if you were to calculate the number of bonus shares issued, the proportion is given 2 for every 5 that we already have. So in other words, as a fraction, when you want to represent that, it's 2 over 5. So given that we had 1 million shares in our original issued share capital, we now want to issue 2 shares for every 5 shares that we had in the issued share capital. So when you write it as a fraction, it can be written as 2 over 5. So 2 over 5 times 1 million, that gives us 400,000 bonus shares to be issued. Now, what is the monetary value for these bonus shares? We know that each share has a nominal value of 50 pence, which can be written as pounds 0.50. So we just took 0.50 and multiplied it with 400,000 shares, and therefore we get a monetary value of 200,000 pounds for bonus shares. Let's look into the third additional information. On 1 July 2019, an interim dividend of 4 pence per share was paid. This was based on all the shares we had in issue at that date. All right, so if you look into the workings for the total shares in issue on 1 July 2019, we had 1 million shares that comes from the original issued share capital. Then we have 400,000 additional shares that comes from the bonus issue of shares, which makes the total 1,400,000 shares. Now, if you want to calculate the amount of dividend that has been paid on 1,400,000 shares, we simply take the number of shares we have, which is 1,400,000, and multiply it with the dividend that we have paid per share, which is 4 pence. Now, 4 pence can be expressed as 0.04 pounds. And you need to be careful in exam to not multiply with 4, but rather multiply with 0.04. So it makes sure that all the numbers have been aligned in terms of pounds. Now, you might also wonder, how did we get 0.04 pounds? So let me just show you a quick demonstration. So we know that the interim dividend was 4 pence per share. if you want to convert from 4 pence to a pound, you just simply divide with 100. This is because 1 pound has 100 pence. So if you want to convert 4 pence into pounds, you just do 4 divided by 100, which will give you 0.04 pounds. Once we do that, the total interim dividend comes out to be 56,000 pounds. Okay. And the last information states that profit for the year ended 31 March 2020 was 72,100 pounds. So let's see how we are going to include all the workings that we have done in preparing the statement of changes in equity. All right. So first of all, the table had already given us the closing balance from last year, which is 31 March 2019. And this is coming from what we have been given initially at the beginning of the question. Okay, now during the year, based on our first set of workings, we know that we had issued bonus shares, and the monetary value for those bonus shares that we have issued was 200,000 pounds. So that is why in the description section, I'm writing bonus issue, and under the column of issued share capital, we are writing 200,000 pounds. Also, you will see that in the share premium column, I have written 200,000 pounds, but as a negative. Why is that so? If the bonus shares have to be issued, they have to be always issued from the share premium. So bonus shares are issued to the existing shareholders, and the share premium is a reserve account, which is mainly kept aside for purposes like issuing bonus shares or taking care of any extraordinary circumstances that may happen in the business operations throughout the year. So the bonus shares of 200,000 pounds is coming out of the share premium. So that is why we are putting a negative sign for the share premium, 200,000 pounds, which reflects that there has been a reduction in the reserves, and that amount has been transferred as issued share capital, or 200,000 pounds. Now, this 200,000 pounds, as we have already mentioned, is given out to the existing shareholders. Okay, the next thing we can take care of is the profit for the year. Now, profit for the year can go straight to retained earnings, which is 72,100 pounds based on the additional information number 4. Now, why is this going to retained earnings? Retained earnings stands for earnings that we are reinvesting. So any profits that a company makes will be going to the retained earnings after any dividends have been paid. So in this case, profit that any company makes will always be transferred to the retained earnings so that they can reinvest these earnings after the dividends have been paid out in the next financial year. The last thing that we have included are the dividends. Now the dividends we have calculated to be 56,000 pounds based on 1,400,000 shares, where 1 million shares come originally from the issued share capital, and an additional 400,000 shares comes from the bonus issue of shares, which we have calculated using the proportion of 2 shares for every existing 5 shares. So now that we have derived the monetary value for dividend to be 56,000 pounds, dividends are paid out of profits, which means it should reflect a reduction in the retained earnings, because retained earnings refer to reinvestment of earnings after the dividends have been paid out from the profits. So that is why in the retained earnings section, we are including dividends as 56,000 in a negative. So the negative here simply refers to the dividends being paid out of profits or being paid out of retained earnings. So once you have done all those, then you can find the closing balance at 31 March 2020, which is to simply add everything in the issued share capital column, 500,000 being the opening balance, and then an extra 200,000 pounds as bonus issue, which makes it 700,000 pounds. Then when you move to the share premium column, you will see that we started with the opening balance of 284,367 pounds. Out of that, 200,000 has been transferred to bonus issue, the reason behind why we are putting it as a negative sign, and that gives us a total of 84,367 that's remaining in the share premium reserve. The last column has to do with retained earnings. So we have the opening balance again, which is 346,345. During the year, we had some profit of 72,100 pounds, and then we had paid out dividends of 56,000 pounds, which gives us a total ending balance of 16,100 pounds for retained earnings. If you found value in this content, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to this channel for more content that I'll be posting every day.